What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Oh So Simplified, coming to you with the video here about it's all good as long as you keep moving forward. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If you dislike, leave a negative, a thumbs down, leave some negative comments. Any feedback will do. As always, I'll kind of do this into like a short synopsis, then carry this to the application of my life at the end, since all of these videos really do just come from things that I'm thinking about really for myself that I know other people have to be, experiencing as well. So to really start this off, the first point, and there's really three main points, as always, I like to break it down into, is that things don't always work out on your time frame. So I think a lot of the times, especially in this day and age, because we get things so immediately, we create a lot of time frames that we want things to happen in, and if they don't happen within those time frames, sometimes we could feel like we're screwing up. You could also feel like, all the effort that you're putting in is in vain or for nothing, and then this can easily lead to you to stop doing whatever actions or working towards whatever goal because you don't feel like you're making any headway. But understanding that one, time in itself is a construct. I mean, this gets a little bit deeper into like Einstein and different dimensions. Obviously, we're in the third dimension. The next dimension, there would be no time. It's the same way that we can look at a 2D image and see every piece of the image. But if we were stuck in 2D, we could not see beyond every image. So the whole idea of time in itself is a construct that really just pulls together the third dimension. But beyond, more esoteric thinking, the way that we view time is all just an image in your, it's just an image in your mind that you're using to contain the ability to achieve a certain result. It's not actually tied to something that's actually natural. Now, obviously I could say that, for you to hit puberty, it's going to take you to reach a certain age. But once again, that would be an age range. Not everybody hits puberty at the same time, and it'd be very hard for you to even something that's kind of trackable, like a biological thing. It's even hard to pinpoint that. Now, something that is mental, that you created in your mind as a particular goal, that is even less easy to track, so to speak. So nobody really knows what the gestation period of an idea is to bring it to fruition. So you have to understand that any goal, anything you've thought of, anything you want to achieve or you want to happen is basically a seed in your mind. There isn't any textbook or scientific journal that can tell you how this is going to come to reality, and then also specifically the time frame that's going to be needed is not told to you. Now, when I say that, everything doesn't happen in your time, there's things within your control and there's things outside of your control. Regardless of either one of the ones I'm going to talk into, your goal is to make a step forward each time and keep moving forward. Even if you think about, I heard somebody playing this kind of like interesting thought experiment of like, it was like basically you get money or you get like, $50 million, but there's a snail that is knows your location, is constantly, chasing you, and if it touches you, you die. Would you want that, or would you want to just like live your normal life? And the main piece that I'm trying to get at, I don't really want to get as deep into their experiment, was like no matter where they went, they had to put into consideration that the snail would reach them. Because even if you're moving slowly towards a target, if you're consistently making headway towards that target, you will eventually reach your destination. Now, when I talk about the things within your control and outside of your control, you want to obviously take care of the majority of the things that are within your control. There are things you can do to make things come to you faster. And these are going to be very evident depending on what your particular goal is. But obviously doing the things that lead you to that goal in as concise and consecutive a manner as you can. Now, leaving things out and doing less things or putting things off and not doing them as quickly as you can or with the amount of effort that you can, that will obviously lead to the timing of things to happen as being further away. But there are things with, once again, that are outside of your control. A lot of things that you have as a goal are not all within your control. I mean, that's the whole idea of a goal. An objective is something that you can, pretty much achieve all by yourself. Now, a goal is something that you need the rest of the world to somewhat be on board with to make it happen. So it's understanding what's within your control and taking care of those, and then the things that are outside of your control, just letting the universe and whatever the gestational period of an idea be, letting that happen on its own. But regardless of what it is, you're continually making steps forward for this to happen and trying to control the controllables and let go of the things that are obviously outside of your control. So that's really the first point. The second point is that things move slow, but things also move fast. And that sounds paradoxical, but it's really the idea that the more and more I've studied people that have become successful in any realm, there's a whole book kind of about this called Mastery by Robert Greene. It's my favorite book of all time. I have extensive reviews on the channel from like 5-7 years ago that you can listen to of me breaking it down, but it's one I definitely live my life by. But the main piece of this book was that a lot of the people, whether it is a Mozart, Charles Darwin, Albert Einstein, and I can go on and on, Thomas Edison, I'm trying to name people that you might actually know, Leonardo da Vinci, a lot of these people had a large period of their life that was I guess you could say unincredible, but unremarkable is the word I'm looking for. Unremarkable. That they would have appeared like everyone else, but underneath the surface, there were a lot of things that were going on that were huge changes that over the course of time would lead them to where they're ultimately the way that we think of these people. But the way that it looked outwardly was the same thing as like the metaphor of a bamboo tree, that you plant a bamboo tree and I believe it's 4 years, regardless amount of time, but it's a multiple year process where it is only underground, but it needs to be nourished, it needs to have all of the watering and the correct environment throughout that entire period for it to sprout. But when it does sprout, it's like within something like 3 months it'll grow 6 feet. But throughout all that other time, it was necessary, and there were changes obviously happening to the bamboo itself in terms of its maturity, in terms of its ability to break the ground, that needed to happen in order for it to sprout and grow like that. To the naked eye, you just see it growing from the ground and think, damn, it grew that fast, that high, that fast. But, even like Big Sean has a line in his, I think it's his second album, maybe it was a mixtape, but he said something. He was like, people tell me I'm an overnight success. He's like, yeah, I say, yeah, right, I guess it took me, no, he's like, he said, Big Sean has a line where he says, it looks like you blew up overnight. He says, yeah, man, I guess it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. That through his perception, he's been working hard for like 10 years or whatever the amount of time. It was like 9 years or something close to a decade amount of time in the line. He's been working that hard for that amount of time, but other people didn't see that. All they saw was the immediate rise, and they're only counting that amount of time. So that's to say that things are going to move slow at a certain period, but a lot of the time, when you do hit whatever that breakthrough is, it's an immediate jump that you needed to have all of that preparation. And that's that saying that you always hear that, when opportunity meets preparation, that's luck, or these things that people think are given. But if you don't have that preparation, if you didn't put the time in prior, you can never reap the benefits of that. So not to get discouraged when things are moving slow, because at any point things can move fast. And I know even when I think about the concept of learning things, generally when I'm trying to learn stuff, what happens is for a long period of time, I feel like I don't understand or retain or comprehend anything, and then all of a sudden I get it all. When I've tried to learn new moves in fighting, it's been very similar. Like, I'll be completely uncoordinated, not really fully understanding how to move my body in a certain way. I go to sleep, come back, all of a sudden I'm significantly better. I've never really seen improvements that happen really, like, truly incrementally. It's generally, it seems like nothing is changing, and then there's a huge change that is very measurable for me to see, or very obvious for me to see, depending on what realm it is. The end on this point is that never take for granted or overlook what actions or behaviors can amount to, because at any point things can have a chain reaction. Now, this is specifically if you just think about like social media. A lot of the times when you see people that go viral, or a musician that their song blows up, it's not like they knew, especially the first couple times. Like, they didn't know that that was going to be the one. Even I know 50 Cent, I mean, I think either song would have blown up, but like, for example, In Da Club was not supposed to be the single, if you're familiar with rap in 2002, but he was big when I was young. In Da Club wasn't supposed to be the single. It was supposed to be that song. It's like, if I can't do it, homie, it can't be done. But basically, there was a conversation in the, and this is before all the streaming and stuff, so they like have very, when it came to singles, it was very important, but they had this big discussion, and then they decided In Da Club was going to be the single. Now, the chain reaction of events that happened beyond that, nobody could predict. And there was a time I wanted to be a rapper. That's why a lot of these are rap examples, because I know how a lot of these things happen. Like Big Sean, another one. He just heard Kanye West was at a radio station that he had done freestyles for, and he decided, screw it. And he was talking about how his friend called him up and he said, let's do it. He ain't even have no gas, but somehow God just led him to it. Like, let's do it. He spit his 16, gets signed by Kanye, and then the rest is history. So it's like, when you know there's actions you need to take, and this kind of does move into that metaphysical realm, you never really know how the universe is conspiring to make that action the action that blows you up. So I would advise you, specifically reaching back to the last piece, that anything that's within your control that you can do, because you don't know how just the seemingly small action can have a chain reaction of events that could have been your main, that big jump. And that's essentially what you're working towards. You're working towards just being prepared for that opportunity, or the multitude of opportunities that could arise that you can take advantage of and have that big jump. But you need to, one, be working when the times are slow, and be ready for when it becomes fast. And the last caveat I would have for this is, like, don't really discount the times that are slow, because once again, I'm going to go back to a rap example, but like, you see a lot of young rappers, whatever is like XXS Tentacion, Pop Smoke, there's the list goes on. But a lot of these young rappers, either Mac Millers, or they either like get drugged out, or they get drugged out, if you know what I mean. Get the skitty dot bop, get hit with the hammer. But when you see older people, like once again a 50 Cent, who was really about that life, and he did have to pay a price about that life, but by the time that he actually got on and got famous, he was already a little bit older. Same with like people like Kanye, Jay-Z, they're a little bit older, so they didn't run into the same pitfalls as other people, because there was a little bit more preparation before they hit that piece in life. Same with people like J. Cole. Like, he actually went to college and has a degree, and there's an amount of decorum that he has, amount of political maneuverisms. I'm making up that phrase, maneuverability that he has, because I know there was one where he used like he like used the word autistic in a certain way, and it was taken as derogatory. He understood, and he talks about it. He's like, I went to college, I understood that when I got that feedback, I should apologize, I should bleep that word out on the song and move forward and just own up to it. Whereas other people that might not have that level of experience wouldn't know how to respond to these situations. So in the slow times, understand that this might also be a benefit or a blessing in disguise, because you're getting actual life experience and not being thrown into the lion's den with success. Because once you do blow up there, you can't go back. So if you're not ready to handle it, it can destroy you, or you could even destroy your reputation and never be able to get back to where you got to. Last piece is a concept that I did talk about in my last video. If you did get to listen to it, it's called the gap and the gain. And I think there's a whole book on it, but I only really heard, I think, their second book. Dan Strutzel and somebody else, I'm pretty sure the name. The book that I read was called 10x is easier than 2x. And the concept they talk about is the gap and the gain. What's the difference between the gap and the gain? Generally, we have ideals and we have goals and an ideal self or ideal way of being that we're trying to reach to. And what happens with this is that we're generally looking at, you know, if we're looking at like a trip, you know, or we look at this is where I'm at and this is where I want to be, there's a gap here. And you can work towards this, to closing this gap, and you get to here. But generally what we will do is that, let's say you get halfway to a goal, and now you're seeing that the original goal is right within reach. Generally you will want more now, and your ideal will move up. So if we're looking at it, the gap is still exactly the same. And if you're focusing on the gap, what this is going to lead to is burnout, depression, negative thoughts, doubt, because everything you're always focused on is how far you have to travel to get to where you want to go. Whereas if you look at the gain, what you're looking at is if your ideal is here and then you move up to here, you're going to focus on this piece and say, you know what, it's good that I gained this amount of distance. So even if your ideal moves up here, you're still seeing, okay, I traveled, if we just call this, you know, 10 units, instead of my goal is 90 units away or 100 units away, because I moved up 10 units and my ideal moved up 10 units. You still see that you've gained those 10 units, and you can use that to fuel your continued action. That, like, look at how much progress I can make. Look at the progress I've made. Look at what I've done and put behind me. And that can be definitely a main driver, instead of always feeling like you're missing something, or you missed out, or you're not there yet, or you're incomplete. You're looking more of, I'm a complete person, I've made this distance, and look at how much I've accomplished at that point. So that's what the gap and the gain piece is. And the next piece I do want to talk about with this gap and the gain is the book that I'm talking about, the 10x is easier than 2x. And this kind of ties into everything about when you're really like focusing on the things that are within your control, you're making those actions, and that whole idea of, you know, you never know how something is going to specifically turn out and have a ripple effect. That the other end of the spectrum is, the more you make actions towards the ideal, your own mind changes, because you're going to start getting feedback, whether it's from the external environment or just your own feedback on what is now moved from your head to out in existence. Once you start putting this plan into motion, you might have adjustments that you're going to make. Ideas might come that you never thought about, that could be improvements or a different direction. But things start to change as you start to move towards the path, or on the path. And then from the 10x is easier than 2x point of view, the main concept of that book was that, you know, generally we'll say, you know, I'm making, you know, these are just examples, it's not me, but it's like you're like, yeah, you're making 50K, and you're like, I want to make 60K. Well, 2x would actually be 100K, but for this, if you're using money, it's a little bit different. Instead of saying you want to make 50K, if you wanted to make 200K, the thinking that you would have to make the 500K happen compared to the 60K happen, the 500K, you would have to completely revolutionize your thinking. If almost nothing that you're doing currently is actually going to get you to that point, so you're going to have to change what you're doing to make that happen. And then once again, these are the type of things that can really accelerate a timeline. But once you're on the path, that's when you can start to have these new revolutionary ways of thinking. Whereas if you just wanted to add an extra 10,000 basically your solution is going to be do more of what you're already doing, which once again is a recipe for burnout, because there's only so much you can do, and once you're tapped out, you're tapped out, and then now you've created a ceiling that you can never get past. So ultimately, you always want to have to be able to revolutionize your thinking to speed things up so that they do happen in a closer timing to whatever you want. Now, that was a little bit outside of the scope, so I don't want to go too deep into that, but that book, 10x is easier than 2x, maybe I'll do a separate video on that one in the future, but did want to just throw that out there that, you know, as you're making these decisions and moving towards your ideal, the bigger your ideal is, the more radical it will change your thinking that will get you to do things that can produce more result for you to get there. And the only last thing I do want to touch on this piece before I just get into the application for me is that as long as you're breathing, you always gotta have a chance to turn things around. At any point you can choose your lifestyle. At any moment you can choose the path you want to live on, and every single day is a reset. There are plenty of times where, whether good or bad, I can feel like I had the best day and I wake up and you start at zero. You feel like you had the worst day and it's hopeless. You fall asleep, you wake up, you start at zero. So no matter what is holding you back or kind of keeping you from moving forward, always understand that the second you go to sleep, you wake up, you get a chance to start everything right back over. So every day is a reset. Never feel too burdened by what you're doing. And ultimately, all of this is to remove some of the stress and let go and just understand that things are going to happen in the right timing as long as you're moving in the direction and moving forward and doing what you can to stay on that path and act as much on that path. Now, to get into the application for my life, this really comes with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with this video like this video channel specifically. I mean, obviously, I've mentioned many times this is what I want to do in terms of like an income source, in terms of what I'm doing now for money. It's like, that's not my passion. That's not something that I really like am looking forward to wake up to do. And it's something that, you know, there's no real complaints in the sense of it's paying the bills, it's doing what it needs to do. But we all have these choices in life of, you know, who you want to be. And at my age, in my early 30s, I'm really feeling the pressure now more than ever that, you know, I've had enough time in the workforce to understand that, you know, you only have your energy for so long. Like, the older I get, as much as I have the feeling that, like, you know, I don't know if I want to be doing this the rest of my life, that's only going to grow. Like, that's not going to shrink as time goes on. And I've had the experience, and also with the pandemic, you know, having the experience of working from home like every day. Right now I commute twice a week to New York City, which adds like an hour bookend on, you know, travel and back. And even the hours that I work, it's like a little bit longer than a normal 9 to 5. It's 9 to 6. It's like, do I really want to feel that obligation for the rest of my life? And is this just going to be my life until I'm 65? Like, that's definitely not what my hope is. And I want to make the moves to make, lack of a better term, my dreams a reality. So there's certain actions I know I need to do. Now, it's a balance between pushing yourself and beating yourself up. Now, there are times where it's like, I have a full plate, I do this, I'm very active physically. I'm also, you know, competing in mixed martial arts, which is a very dangerous hobby. If you're not prepared, you can get your block knocked off. So obviously I need to spend time in making sure that all of that is protected. But on the other hand, it's like, I've been posting to this video, and this is where we're getting into the gap and the gain, but I haven't been doing everything that I've been planning to do. And what happens a lot of the times is I'm like, start beating myself up, which leads me to actually procrastinate more. It doesn't lead me to do more and actually feel like less motivated to get things done, when, you know, maybe I haven't made the videos on all the channels and finished the course that I'm working on. But compared to last year, I've been way more consistent than, you know, for many years in terms of my posting schedule. To this particular channel, I've, you know, consistently put something up every week, and that is a gain. That's something to be, celebrated to an extent of, you're making progress to just living the lifestyle that you're looking to live. Whether it's, just having more things to draw on from my lifestyle. Like now that I have the house, I have many things, many different rooms to shoot. I have many more topics to cover in terms of a life experience and things I do with day to day. In terms of my MMA journey, now that I'm actually fighting and being in there, I feel like I have more to offer as far as creating content from those perspectives. So there is a gain aspect. Even though my ideal is still here, there's still a gain aspect I can focus on. And also, I don't really know what's going to take off. Sometimes when you're watching videos get 7 views, 8 views, 9 views, you're kind of looking at yourself like, dude, like, is this ever going to take off? But I don't know what's going to take off. And then also dipping into your mind starts to come up with these ideas. It's like I've had some new channel ideas that I actually think, maybe I can really create a real niche and create a channel. Obviously, everything will be documented on Also Simplified for the people that are watching. But I can create this niche and have this new way of doing it, which is a thought that came to me not from not shooting videos and putting them on. It's that I've been shooting and putting videos up for the first 3.5 months of this year. And really, I'm seeing that this channel, even though it has subscribers, the way I've built it is not probably going to be that conducive for, blowing up and making a ton of money. Now, am I going to stop making these videos? No, because once again, I don't know what's going to take off. I don't know what's going to give me a good jump off points and create these thoughts. So it's something I'm going to continue to do, is just, once again, when you're on the path, when you're doing the thing, and when you're looking at the gain and what you've already accomplished, it can give you a lot of new ideas and motivation to take action to make things really happen. And that's really the message I had to myself, because it's like I really wanted to have my other channels up and some videos posted on those, like in tandem with the video I'm posting for this one. But really, it's like I've kind of kept the status quo I've already created. But if I do look at things holistically, the trajectory of my chart is moving up. I am getting more subscribers, more watch time. Maybe it's not going to turn into, the earner status on this channel right away, but it is a movement forward. So instead of beating myself up, use it as motivation that, if we're taking 1 step now, let's try to start taking 2 steps. And maybe it's not 2 steps every week, but at least get 2 steps in a month for 1 week. Or we can change our pace and get our pace to be moving up. So that's really the idea with this one, is like, as long as you're moving forward, it's all good. If you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike, leave some negative comments. Either way, I appreciate any of the feedback. Any feedback will do, and y'all know what it is. Until next time, peace out.